What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Miami Sports Vibes YouTube channel. I am here and excited as hell for another NFL season. The boys are back. The Dolphins are back. Week 1 is back. Man, I'm excited, man. Football is finally here. A long-awaited offseason. I'm not even going to lie, but it's time, man. It's time to, go live, and it's time to just make things happen. I am excited for this NFL season. Plenty of things to be optimistic for the Miami Dolphins this year. Like I said, we're doing the same show that we did last year. Jacoby will be in a minute. Give him some time. But Jacoby will be joining me, and we're going to do the same breakdown as we did last year, man. We're going to go with our keys to victory, our X factors, what we feel about both teams, looking in our little preview, and then we're going to jump into fantasy football advice from Jacoby himself, who, was pretty successful with the stardom sit-em segments last year, because he ended up winning the fantasy league. I mean, could you believe that? This guy ended up winning my damn fantasy league. So I'm sure he's going to talk trash about that once he joins in. I see a couple people trickling in here. Zell, what's up, guys? Listen, happy to have you tuning in, man. We definitely miss doing this show. We're excited. Excited for some bigger and better things. And I see a fantasy football question that we will definitely get into once Jacoby gets in here. He is the fantasy guru. But shout out to everyone, man. We're excited. We are excited for this NFL season, for this fantasy season. And how about the Dolphins, man? I mean, I'm a little bit worried. I don't know if everyone else is, but a couple of injuries there. You got Tyreek Hill now dealing with something. You got Jalen Waddle dealing with something. I mean, can we just stop injuries? Like, the season hasn't even started yet, and we're already in here talking about injuries already. It's just life as a Miami Dolphins fan, man. I tell you something. It does not get easy at any point. But the depth chart was released today, actually a couple hours ago, and it reads off as this. It is a little bit hard to see, but you see Tyreek Hill there. You see Teron Armstead there. You see Robert Jones. Aaron Brewer was named the starting center. So that is big news for the Miami Dolphins. He is going to be starting at center. There was plenty of question marks whether he'll be ready to go and who would be the starting center. That is one thing I took away from this depth chart. Everything else, I mean, you're pretty much used to. You got Devon Achane there. You got Jalen Wright, Raheem Mostert. You see Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, Braxton Berrios. Obviously, Odell Beckham is on PUP. You see Bradley Chubb is on PUP as well. That's why you don't see his name out there. Jalen Phillips, he is back, which is freaking amazing. I mean, talk about that turnaround from Jalen Phillips. Like, how the hell do you get injured on Black Friday and you're back just like that? The dude is a freak, man. And I think the dude is like, once he gets healthy and gets himself like ready to go, oh man, I think he's going to have a hell of a season. Another interesting name was Benito Jones. He is named the starting nose tackle. So he's going to be alongside Calais Campbell out there. I thought that was interesting. And then Durham Smythe as tight end 1. I've heard a lot about Jonnu Smith over the offseason. I think he's going to have a big role on this team. But Durham Smythe named tight end 1 on the depth chart. I think that is noteworthy. But then again, people are in and out the lineup all the time. McDaniel is one of the ones when it comes to dialing up plays. And speaking of Jacoby, without further ado, Jacoby is here, man.
At the buzzer. I made it.
Welcome, my brother. Welcome. How's it going?
This is such a great sight, man. It's been so long. I'm so stoked to be back on with you for another season. That was probably, a lot of people don't agree, but that was probably the fastest NFL offseason I've ever experienced. Like, Super Bowl still feels like a couple weeks ago to me sometimes. So I'm pumped, dude. It's finally time.
I like the jersey too. Is that a new one, dude?
It's my 201. I mean,
all right.
Dude got paid. Let me show my support. I mean, I'm stuck with him regardless now. So let's go. Might as well rep him.
I hear you, bro. I hear you, man. I'm excited. You talk about this season ending fast. I mean, damn, it really does feel like it was just around the corner. I mean, just not too long ago. I was kind of pissed off after the loss. I was hiding under a little cave for a while. I'm saying, Dolphins are going to do what they're going to do. Forget about it. And then they had a nice little offseason that they railed me back in like they do every single freaking time. And here we are. I'm excited as hell for another week. But let's get things started, man. Talk about the additions that the Dolphins made. I mean, like I just said, I was kind of bummed out. I was like, man, this team going into this next year, like I don't really feel optimistic. But then you add guys like Jordan Brooks, Calais Campbell, even though he's a little bit older, Odell Beckham, even though he's on PUP. But you made a lot of little additions here. You got Agba coming back as well. What do you think about the Dolphins offseason as a whole?
Dude, I don't know how they pulled it off, to be honest with you. I think if our listeners remember when we showed up in here on the last pod last season, I told you, I'm like, they're in cap hell. I don't know how they're going to recover in this offseason while still staying at a competitive level. And I was beyond impressed with the additions they brought in, but I was still very disappointed in the flaws they left out. But starting with the additions, man, my favorite addition, dude, Jordan Brooks. I am excited about him, man. And you see like they brought Agba back, which is going to be needed in my opinion after the fluke Shaq Barrett situation. That was quite a whirlwind. He signs and they retires a couple months later. So I'm glad that we were able to retain Agba. He still had 7.5 sacks last year, I believe. So I'm thrilled with that while Chubb recovers, man. But I think they improved in a lot of different areas. They're bringing in Kendall Fuller with Xavier Howard's departure. They got a healthy Jalen Ramsey entering this season. I'm stoked with the additions they brought in. There is some flaws, but I think this is the best case scenario they could have done on the defensive side.
So would you say that the Dolphins roster, let's say Chubb's coming back healthy, this roster is better than last year?
I think that's pretty tough to say in regards of the most important aspect of the team which the offensive line, and that has regressed tremendously. That's tough for me to say it's a better roster than last year. We have an unproven defensive coordinator as well, which I like what he's been. I like the vibes he's been bringing to the team. I think he gels more with this group more than Vic Fangio did. But that's tough for me to say. I think there's quite an argument that it could be better than last year's team. But that offensive line scares the shit out of me, bro. I'm not going to lie.
Nah, bro. The offensive line is always going to be the main stress of, both of us and all Dolphins fans across the world, bro. Like, there's no way. It's always offensive line and health is always 1 and 2, 1A and 1B, with the offensive line always first, bro, because it all starts with the trenches. But I think this team, man, in this offseason, they caught me by surprise. I really didn't think that they were going to be able to pull something off as dramatic as they did. But listen, they do it all the time, and they found yet another way. And Jordan Brooks is a guy that I feel like I'm glad that you mentioned his name, because I'm freaking excited for him. And I really think he's flying under the radar. But I think, once the games start rolling, people are going to really notice that impact. And Jonnu Smith, a little bit of a veteran, a little bit up there in age, but I really we haven't had a tight end that is, a solid tight end that could block and catch. And Jonnu Smith, hearing a lot of things, you're hearing a lot of sweeps and different things in camp. I'm really interested to see what his role is going to be on this team. So those two in particular excite me the most. Obviously, a veteran like Calais Campbell, even though he's up there in age, he still produced some pretty solid numbers, and he's a veteran. Obviously, we really lost that leadership when it comes to that position, losing Christian Wilkins, which, we all going to miss him. But that was a hefty contract that we were going to be able to pay. But I want to touch on these things with you, man. So we made a couple interesting moves, and is retaining our core pretty much. Finn's Extra tweeted this. The extensions this summer: Alec Ingold, which was a Pro Bowler, 3 year, 17.2. Raheem Mostert, 2-year deal, $9 million. Jalen Waddle, staying home, 3-year extension, 84.75. Tua, the big money, 212.4 for 4 years. Tyreek Hill, 3 years, $90 million. And Mike McDaniel, contract extension through 2028. So the future is secure. This is their core, obviously with Devon Achane included. What do you think about these contracts? Are there any ones that you're saying this is too much? I'm a little bit nervous about this. Has this person deserved it or not? How do you feel about those contracts?
Man, I mean, I think the Jalen Waddle contract was a steal. I mean, you look at the numbers Jalen Waddle has produced in his first 3 seasons. He's a wide receiver 1 on any other team, but he's getting wide receiver 2 money. I mean, banged up all last year, missed a handful of games, still had 1,000 yards and a handful of touchdowns. I'm actually expecting a really big season from Jalen Waddle. So to get him at that value, I was pretty pumped. about. And the Tyreek Hill restructure, I think, helped them out in cap space wise. So I was cool with that. You got to pay Tyreek Hill. He's the game changer. He's the man. He's the centerpiece of your team. Now, when it comes to the two guys that that I'm not too thrilled about, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not too thrilled about, but everybody knows this. I mean, especially if you follow me on Twitter, I've been pretty vocal about how I feel about this, and I was pretty vocal about it on our last episode of the season, but I was not on board with paying Tua that much money. Everything pretty much came down to this for me. 2 back-to-back season collapses. He failed to show up in Baltimore, failed to show up in Kansas City. Granted, I know everyone says negative 20-degree weather, whatever. I mean, and he's only won one game over 500. That to me is just not top 5 quarterback money. And everyone's like, oh, well, he's the only guy that fits this system. He's the only guy that run this system. You can't pay Tua when you can't not pay Tua that money when Goff's getting paid that money. I agree. Like when Goff got paid, I'm like, okay, we don't have a choice. We got to pay Tua. Doesn't mean I wanted to. So I wasn't too thrilled about that because down the line, that money's eventually, I mean, I know it saves him some cap space in the first few years, but eventually that money's going to have to get paid to him. And is it going to stop Miami from retaining other assets? Because you can argue it all you want. Tua needs really great talent around him to excel. That's not an argument. So I wasn't too thrilled with it. Wasn't too thrilled with it at all, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna gloat about it. I am gonna laugh though whenever he has a bad game. The media is gonna post that video of him being like, "Show me the money at training." Like that's gonna be a meme like that you've never seen before. I'm just gonna tell you right now. But I'm not gonna gloat about it all season. I'm not gonna come here every week and just complain about the contract. It is what it is. He signed. Like I told you, Nando, last year, I was like, I am never letting this team build me up like they did last year to just collapse again. So I'm like, I'm going into each week with an open mind and on to the next. I'm not overreacting anymore because back-to-back knives to the heart seasons. Like I didn't sleep for weeks after they blew the division last year, dude. So it is what it is. The Mike McDaniel extension, I mean, I feel he was under contract until 2025. I feel like as a standard and as a principle, have him win a damn playoff game.
Thank you.
Have him win a damn playoff game or don't fall apart at the end of the year.
Thank you.
His 2 seasons, you can say whatever you want about the injuries. This team gets injured more than any team I've seen before. This team's already banged up. There is something not right with their strength and condition. I don't care. You can tell me how it is. There's something not right with their strength and conditioning because this team gets beat up like no tomorrow. Players who have never really had injury prone, like Jalen Ramsey. Like yeah, he had injury, but then he gets hurt right away when he arrives. Like, and granted, they did sign a bunch of injury prone players, but I mean, to me, as a principle and a standard, I wouldn't have paid McDaniel until he won a playoff game or didn't collapse in December when it really matters. So, but like I said, it is what it is. I mean, I love McDaniel's enthusiasm. I love what he did with Tua. I love the culture he's bringing to Miami. He's a Miami guy. You get Miami vibes when you see McDaniel. So, what's done is done. This is the group, and we got to roll with it.
Jacoby just took over. Jacoby went ISO, man. I like it. I really like it, bro. Sharing it from the passionate fan that he is. Me and Jacoby, just we're different. We're split when it comes to Tua, because I am way more higher on Tua than he is. Jacoby says he's more realistic. Maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic. It is what it is. I'll let you guys decide for what it is. I back up Tua a little bit more than Jacoby does, but I respect Jacoby's opinion, man. That money and that contract was pretty big. I am not going to lie to you, but I just feel like our hands were tied and the market is the market. And then we had to pay him this money because at the end of the day, we had no other option. At the end of the day, if the Dolphins want to win and I want to come close, at least contend. All right. Because we can't even win a playoff game. So if we want to contend, it has to be with Tua, because there was just no better option out there. Now, if you were going to give me Lamar Jackson or something like that, then we could talk. But at the end of the day, I think Tua had to get paid. And the market ended up being the market where it just had to be that hefty number. Now, other people are getting paid more, so it could have been worse. I'm a little happy that at least we dodged a little bit of a bullet. Still a big one though. But I believe in Tua, man. Like I said, I mean, he's progressed every single year, which is something that I cannot sleep on. He looked great last year, even though, he has to win some big ones. All right. The criticism is fair. He has to win big ones. He has to beat Buffalo, win me a division, win me a playoff game, meaningful games against good teams in prime time. Absolutely. But, being top league in passing yards, even though Tyreek did a lot of those things, I feel like, Tua gets the credit for me. But I do respect where you're coming from, Jacoby.
Especially when you're driving all the way to Baltimore for the biggest game in Dolphin history. He's got to show up. He's got to show up.
Definitely, bro. I'm still a little bit that stretch. I mean, you can't just erase that. You can't, bro. As a Tua backer, like, he's got to win in December, man. He's got to win in the playoffs. Like, what is this? This is throughout his whole career. It goes back to the game against Tennessee. I mean, like, when are we going to see it? Is this the year? I mean, I love that he's improved every year, but listen, the talk about him and big games, it's fair, bro. He's got to do it this year. He has to do it this year, because
I don't think that's a stretch to say at all. And granted, I'm not going to pin all of it on Tua. Like, the team got absolutely devastated by injuries at the end of the year. Nothing much you can do about that. But there comes a point, people argue this about the Kansas City game in the playoffs. That defense kept us in the game. Kansas City had less than 18 points for like 3 quarters, but Miami could not capitalize on offense whatsoever. They had Tyreek Hill. They had Jalen Waddle. Tua was not getting sacked much. You can't give me an excuse there. And granted, I don't really blame that on Tua, though, because a lot of this offense is not built to play on the road. And that's something this team has to get better for. A lot of people say it's cold weather games, but I think it's road games. They were in Germany and they were in a dome. It wasn't really cold. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you saw like bad snaps, bad communication, delay of games. Like this team last year was not built to play on the road. And I don't think that is because of the cold. I just think they're just not built for the high pressured moments. And I think that's more of a legit argument than they can't play in the cold.
Yeah. I don't like, to me, listen, I think they're not playing in the cold and, I'm a warm weather team. I think that shit is so soft, bro. Like, let me say that right now. Like, any Dolphin fan say, oh, but it's the cold and we're not dude, these guys are grown ass men playing in a grown ass league. Like, that is soft, bro. I don't want to hear that the Dolphins can't play in cold weather and the cold weather is an excuse. The injury thing, I don't like using injury as an excuse, but we had a lot. So I will give them that. That was a lot. And I don't think it falls only on Tua. I think it falls on the team as a whole. But the excuse about the weather, like, you are not going to hear that from me. I think that is soft. Do not blame it on the weather. You're a grown-ass man playing in a grown-ass league. You have to know how to play in any environment. Like, stop it. You guys grown up playing college and all of these things. Like, get out of here with that. I do not want to hear that from Dolphin fans. But this is the year, I believe, we are going to turn things around. We have to, especially after all these extensions, man.
No, yeah, and then, like, just to piggyback on that last point, I mean, you look back to 2022, McDaniel's first year. They went down to the wire in Buffalo in, I think it was like 18 degrees. Tua had like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. They went down to the wire of Buffalo in the playoffs. That was like, I think it was colder than the one in December. They can play in the cold. They were in it with New England. Didn't get a single, not New England, Philadelphia didn't get a single penalty. You can say what you want about that one. That game was cold. They can play in the cold. So don't give us that shit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I want to touch on Mike McDaniel on what you said. So yes. Mike McDaniel extended through 2028. I am with you 100%. Listen, Dolphin fans, please don't shoot me. I'm on your side, man. I'm very optimistic. I love my Dolphins, but I like Mike McDaniel. I like what he's done. He's made this era of Dolphins football the most fun that I've ever witnessed in my life. I will definitely give him that. This is the most fun that I've had as a Dolphin fan my whole life. This is the most wins I've seen throughout a little span in my whole life. consecutive playoff appearance. That's exciting. Getting guys like Tyreek Hill in here, he had something to do with it. And unlocking our draft pick in Tua, where he was kind of down in the dumps and looked like it was just going to be a complete failure. So he got the most out of him. I love that. Love Mike McDaniel because of the excitement that he's brought to me and this fan base for consecutive seasons, which I do not take that for granted because I've been through some bad seasons, just like every one of you guys. So, but if he was under contract still, I was under the impression that, if you don't win a playoff game, you're on the hot seat. And you might go because you have a talented team. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Tua leading the league in passing yards. You got a defense. You got Devon Achane. You got Mostert. You got some dogs out here. And then you're not winning the division. And the way you're losing it, where you're on top these seasons, and then you're choking divisions away. You're getting beat by Buffalo twice. You're not winning playoff games back-to-back years. I wanted to see where we were this year now. I'm going to give him another chance, but that's for this year to be proven. How am I going to give him an extension before even seeing what if the same thing happens again? What if we have a nice lead and we go into that tough stretch, which is coming at the end of the year again, and we choke again and we choke in the playoffs in the first round, or we miss the playoffs? That extension is going to look so stupid that I feel like the Dolphins, I just don't understand it. I would not have done it until Mike McDaniel shows me something this year, because I think this was his prove it year to have me, aboard on the train. But I hope it goes well. But I'm with you. I think it was a little bit too soon. I wanted to see how this season played out before I give him that extension.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was pretty vocal about it on Twitter. And, I went off on McDaniel at the end of last season. I'm like, what are you doing having your starters in the game down 40 to Baltimore? And you're going to fight for your life against Buffalo next week. What are you doing leaving? And then now Bradley Chubb misses the playoffs. Bradley Chubb's out the first 4 weeks. That's just coaching mistakes you can't make. And, you got a lot of Dolphins fans gave me shit for that take, but I'm like, you got to read the situation, what's going on here. This team has fallen apart and now they're going to fight for their lives the next week. So that's one thing that really set me off of McDaniel going into this offseason. We saw some improvement last year, but we saw the same issues kind of, amplify a little bit dating back to his rookie season as a coach. This team still has communication issues. They don't get the ball off sometimes, wasting timeouts because clock's going down. It's the same issues. And then not performing on the road, not performing against over 500 teams. It makes zero sense to me how you get an extension for that. I mean, shit. At least Adam Gase won some games on the road. At least, I'm not trying to say he's a better coach, but fuck.
Yeah.
Or Brian Flores there's a whole shit with Brian Flores, but you got to set a better standard to me than that, in my opinion. And that's the way I see things in that aspect. But like I said, it is what it is. And, it's going to be a good test for them this season. We'll get into this later, but these first 2 games of the season are pretty crucial because like last year, all the tough games are at the end of the year. So, and you can't really have a hiccup in the first half of the season.
Yeah, and just to piss you off even more, check out this comment. 5 Dolphin players hurt, and the first official game hasn't been played yet. What do you think about that, Jacoby? You already got Tyreek Hill questionable, Jalen Waddle questionable, Odell on PUP, Bradley Chubb, obviously, he's still recovering. But, even before the season started, your boys are banged up.
Like I told you, this team is already in tough shape. But the one thing I've learned to deal with Mike McDaniel is that you can't really look into the injury report until really 2 days before the game. I mean, these players can have a hangnail and they'll be on that freaking injury report, and then they'll come off of it. So, ever since Tua's injury, McDaniel's been very, very, very conservative with the injuries. So I try not to stress. About. If they're still on the injury report, it was good to see Waddle and Tyreek Hill returned with no setbacks, but I'm more concerned about Aaron Brewer our center. I don't want to see Liam in there.
Oh my God.
And Jalen Ramsey went back to practice, so that was a good sight to see. But Odell Beckham Jr., the wide receiver 3, you were thrilled to sign, didn't practice at all in training camp.
That was me.
I was excited too. I was like, who's stopping this offense if you have Odell at the wide receiver 3? But he didn't practice a lick in the training camp, and that's very concerning. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's the next Will Fuller." I didn't buy that too much, but now I'm kind of like, okay, I hope this isn't turning into another Will Fuller fiasco.
Oh man, I hate talking about it since I'm so biased about Odell, but it is not looking good, man. Undisclosed injuries scare the hell out of me, man. Like they really do. All of a sudden on PUP, not being part of this, whole offseason. Listen. Whew,
and apparently they knew about it.
Yeah.
Going before they signed him. I'm like, I would have took Hunter Renfrow then, like Renfro's still unsigned.
That's true.
I mean, he low key might be more productive than OBJ at this point in time. And I don't know. I think we just get hyped about OBJ because of the nostalgia factor. But I mean, you look at it this way, he's out for the first 4 weeks. And then I gotta look at the schedule. I think they got Tennessee week 4, and then another game after that, and then the bye week. I can probably see them bringing him back after the bye week. So
yeah,
they probably want to give him that much time off, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's see. But let's talk about this game, man. So week 1 is here. First game at the crib at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 1:00 p.m. Eastern start. At Hard Rock Stadium, as I mentioned, the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that, had some high hope when they got Doug Peterson, had this crazy comeback against the Chargers, made some noise in the playoffs. Last year, we're kind of on top for a little bit, and Houston came out of nowhere, snatched that, and the Jaguars have not looked like that same team from a couple of years ago. They added Calvin Ridley last year. I was really high on him, and they ended up getting rid of him. Now they're without Calvin Ridley. First of all, before we get into our preview, what do you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I mean, I think they made some really good draft choices, and their defensive front, with Josh Allen on that defensive line is always going to give me a great cause of concern, especially with the offensive line Miami has. But I'm not too moved. I'm not too impressed. I was really kind of let down. I've been a Trevor Lawrence guy. I'm not gonna lie. I was really high on him when he came into the league. Gave him 1 year and to see what he did, but it was pretty much a letdown, especially when adding Calvin Ridley. Evan Ingram had a great season. Having Calvin Ridley, granted he missed a year due to his suspension, but it was just quite a letdown last year for Jacksonville. And we're gonna see what they bring week 1. I'm not really expecting too much. I think. I think we're going to be able to handle them pretty well, but I mean, I think there's some areas of their team you can't take lightly though. So
yeah, no, I agree with you, man. Calvin Ridley I definitely expected Calvin Ridley to kind of stay for a little bit. And I thought he was really going to, do a lot of splash plays with Trevor Lawrence. Cause I do like Trevor Lawrence. I've liked what I've seen. But this is a big year for him. This is a really big year for him in a division with a lot of young guys out there. Anthony Richardson over there, CJ Stroud. Like, Trevor Lawrence is really going to have to show up this year and make some noise. So I'm a little bit worried from that standpoint because I know he has that chip on his shoulder. They drafted that kid from LSU, I believe, Brian Thomas. I think he's going to do well. But probably going to take a while for him. But Travis Etienne is a nice piece. He can catch out of the backfield.
They did acquire Eric Armstead as well.
Oh, did they?
I'm pretty sure, if I'm seeing here correctly. Yeah.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah, Eric Armstead. That was in my notes. I kind of forgot. This free agency went everyone went once, and then I kind of forgot about everything for a while. So when I was pulling up my notes right here, I remember I was like, "Oh shoot, yeah, that's right. Eric Armstead left San Francisco." So that him and Josh Allen will definitely give me some fear on that with that O-line right now. But I think Miami is gonna have a good game plan in place for this for sure.
All right. Do you think Trevor Lawrence is gonna have a successful season this year?
It's hard to say. I mean, they did acquire Gabe Davis as well, and they still got Christian Kirk. I think Gabe Davis gets a lot of hate than he deserves because of he had that big game in Kansas City, and then everyone expected him to be this kind of like a superstar in the making. But I expect Trevor Lawrence to definitely bounce back. I don't think they'll be a playoff team, if I'm honest with you, but I do think Trevor Lawrence will definitely have a better season. They still got Christian Kirk, who's banged up right now, and then they got the rookie and Evan Ingram, who was one of the top 5 tight ends last year. He's got the weapons for sure. So, I mean, I'm confident he's going to definitely bounce back from last year. I think he's got more depth than last year, but I don't think they'll be a playoff team, though.
All right, fair enough.
AFC is just too stacked.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it really is stacked. So let's go with our preview. Let's start things off with our keys to victory, man. Jacoby, what are the Dolphins' keys to victory to taking down the Jacksonville Jaguars? Obviously, it's a team that we're better than, but we can't take any team lightly, especially early on in the season where we need to really, take advantage of easy games when they arise.
Yeah, man. I think my first key to the game is capitalize early. Get rolling early, if that makes any sense. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm kind of expecting a big 50-50 crowd. Miami's not the best home stadium, so I expect Jacksonville to have quite a bit of turnout, and it is a cross-state rival game. So I think you need to get your home crowd into it as early as you can. Start off on fire. I mean, look what they did last year in LA on week 1. So, come out guns blazing, don't waste any time. My second game is pound the rock, man. Run the ball down their throats. You got 3 what's the word for it? Just take over running backs, in my opinion. Raheem Mostert still has that dog in him, and he has the speed. Devon Achane, I'm expecting a big sophomore season from him. And you got a secret little weapon in Jalen Wright that you can just throw in at any moment. Man, throw as many curveballs as you can on them. Keep them on their toes with those running backs. Pound the rock and utilize the clock to your advantage. And then the third man, offensive line, hold your stance. Do not let Tua get set. Give him as much time. Let's see what the game plan has. Maybe they're going to emphasize on getting rid of the ball quicker, but it's going to start with the offensive line. Hopefully they hold it together and don't sustain any more injuries. We're expecting to have Teron Armstead. Aaron Brewer is back at practice today. Hopefully we come in with a fully healthy line. Well, no Isaiah Wynn, but hopefully they come in ready to go and keep Tua protected. And I think it will be a good opening day game. And I'm going to say this real quick before you get to your keys. This game's very important. And a lot of people laugh at me when I say, week 1 is a kind of a must win. You got to think about it this way. You don't win this game, you got a quick turnaround against Buffalo. It's going to be a Buffalo home game. I promise you that. You got a quick turnaround for Thursday Night Football. You need to win this game. You need to go into that Buffalo game 1-0 with the momentum on your side. You can say whatever you want about Buffalo. I don't think they're going to be nearly as good, but I'm going to live on this. They are Miami's dad until we prove otherwise. It is going to be a Buffalo home game. You need to be 1-0 going into that game. So, and then you go on to Seattle week 3.
Yeah, no, I love those keys. I love those keys. And that is a very interesting point as well. I'm looking at that as well. This is definitely this is kind of like a must win, bro. Could you imagine just being 0-1 going to play Buffalo after Buffalo just spanked you for the last year twice and has owned us for years and won the division? Like, I don't want to hear, hey, they don't have Diggs anymore. We could be, I've heard that they weren't the same last year and we still lost to them. So until we prove otherwise, until they prove me and Jacoby otherwise, we are always going to say most likely almost every time that the game before we play Buffalo is a must-win game. It's just that's how it's going to be until, we're able to handily beat the Buffalo Bills, which I don't think is coming anytime soon. I think we'll split this season. Hopefully split as long as we don't go 0-2. But
I'm not ever gonna say they're gonna split. I think
again
sweeps us until they say otherwise. I mean, I thought they would sweep them last year, and no. So I think Buffalo is gonna destroy Arizona. To be honest with you, so I think they're gonna have and they're at home. They're gonna have all the momentum coming down to South Beach, and I don't want to say the Jacksonville game is a lock win for us, but. Because you never know, but this team performs better in the first half. They perform at home really well. This should be a comfortable win for Miami, because going on your cross-country trip 0-2 could be the absolute worst disaster because you will go to a hostile environment of Lumen Field.
Man, I would absolutely freaking hate that. But let me get you my keys, man. So my keys to victory are pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but that's what happens when it's week 1, man. Not too much of a sample size of, teams kind of getting in rhythms and reading teams. So they're simple. Evan Ingram is a guy that I'm watching. This is a guy that is targeted heavily from Trevor Lawrence. He is his most reliable target. He caught a bunch of receptions last year. He is big on people's fantasy football radar. This guy is a guy that Trevor Lawrence loved to pass to, and the Dolphins have difficulty for years guarding tight ends. Now, we have a couple new linebackers in here. Maybe things are a little bit different, but I want to see it. I want to see the Dolphins finally contain a tight end to having a bad game. Evan Ingram is one of the top tight ends in the league, and I think that we have to make sure we're ready to tackle and we're ready to defend. And on tackling, that brings me to my next key, is containing Travis Etienne. Obviously, he's a guy that I mentioned. He runs and he catches out of the backfield. He's another guy that Trevor Lawrence constantly looked towards. He's played with him in college. When he gets out there and he catches a screen or anything like that, the Dolphins have to be ready to tackle. Linebackers have to be ready. No missed tackles. We've seen that for years and years and years. Please be ready. I mean, how many times have we seen it where we're almost home on a quarterback to get a sack? It's a little screen or a little dump off pass.
Or Duke Riley backs away.
Yeah, exactly. Duke Riley backs away. We miss a tackle, and the guy gets where he should have got a -2. He ends up getting 12, 13, and then all of a sudden, that's just the recipe for the rest of the day. Please tackle. All right. Contain Travis, contain Evan Ingram. Key number 3 is, like you mentioned, the offensive line. Hold it together. Give Tua a little bit of time. Just don't let Tua get killed out there. If you give him a solid, like a decent performance, not even asking for great offensive line, decent offensive line play, Tua and the Miami Dolphins offense will take care of the rest. I'm not worried about our offense versus theirs. We'll put up numbers. Just give me a decent offensive line game. And I think the Dolphins win this one pretty handily. I think the Dolphins win by over 10 points. What about you?
Yeah, I think they're going to come out really strong in the first half, and I think Jacksonville will go on a little bit of a run in the second. But like I said, I think we could really utilize our run game, and I think we'll go on a little spurge in the fourth. Like I said, I just want a clean game on the offensive line, and I don't need a tremendous game from Tua. Just give me a comfortable win. I have this being a 20-7 win by Miami.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully the Dolphins do what they need to do and take care of business against Jacksonville. I'm freaking pumped up. I'm excited. Week 1 is finally freaking here. Dolphins better take care of business, man, because like Jacoby said, you play Buffalo next, short week, Thursday night. Like, let's get some momentum going into that game because that game is huge. We just lost twice to these guys. Don't look ahead too much. Focus on the game right in front of you and take care of business. And it is time now, without further ado, for our fantasy football segment. Jacoby over here, as I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, he actually won the fantasy football championship in my league.
Hey, yeah. Now that you say that, to everybody in the league.
Oh man. Oh, you really?
That off. I had to get that was my first championship, so I had to do it. MSV League. I just said Miami Sports Vibes League.
You would,
and I would. I freaking would. You know what? I was in the championship in your league 2 years before that, and the guy decides to drop 215 fucking points, which I've never seen before in a championship game. So I was thrilled to bring home the banner last year, and I will do it again.
Dude, and this is, guys, by the way, I did not see this before. This guy is showing me this right now live. He did not text me no picture. Like, you really got a damn banner, man. That might be a banner. That might be something that everybody needs to have, man. Whoever wins getting a damn banner, bro. I love it, man.
There will be another one right next to it.
Man, congratulations to Jacoby, though. He won the championship in fantasy football. This guy knows his stuff. So when it comes to his fantasy advice, you came to the right place. So now another season. Can Jacoby repeat? We shall see. I think he's got good competition this year. Hopefully I take him down. But Jacoby, it's time for fantasy football advice. The new season edition. Start him, sit him. Where you want to start with? I'll let you pick, champ.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna start though. I'm gonna just go down the line like we usually do. I want to say this. I think there's a lot of different good stardoms for quarterbacks this week. But with it being week one, I want to go with the best stardoms I think there is. And that's going to be two no-brainers. I'm just going to say them both back to back: Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson going against Kansas City, who are now without L'Jarius Sneed. Lamar Jackson still put up over 250 yards in that playoff game against Kansas City and a couple touchdowns. I actually have Baltimore winning this game, and I think Lamar is going to have a couple touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. I don't really like this Chiefs team right now. I think, they're going through some up and downs, and I think their defense did get a little worse. So I expect Lamar to have a big game. So I'm excited for that matchup. That couldn't have been a better matchup for Thursday Night Football opening up the season. And I think Josh Allen versus Arizona, I think that's going to be a pretty good game for him. I'm going to say he's going to give 20 plus points. I think he gets a couple of rushing touchdowns. I'm going to say one rushing touchdown, but I think he gets two passing touchdowns for sure. That's just my two instant stardoms. Because a lot, you know what? I hate Josh Allen. Fuck the Bills. But I think Josh Allen's getting a lot of hate this season, fantasy wise, because he lost Stephon Diggs. Man, Josh Allen was still the QB1 and Diggs was non-existent the last 8 weeks of the season. And you look at what Josh Allen did. They won the last 6 games last year with Diggs being irrelevant. I think that you need to give respect where it's due. So I think those are the two best stardoms of the week, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough.
And my QB situms, they're the two quarterbacks that get compared the most, and one of them is our quarterback. I think Tua is a situm in the sense that I don't think he's going to give you more than 20 points. I think he goes for at most 17 or 18, which is okay. But I think in PPR leagues this year, especially with how stacked the receiver talent is in fantasy football, I think you need to have, especially if you're not good at receiver, I think you need to have a really good quarterback that's going to give you over 20. And I think that's only a handful of quarterbacks this week. So I don't like Tua too much this week. I think he's going to do just fine for Miami, but I don't think he's going to be the best stardom you want. And Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is going to get shut down by the Jets defense. Granted, with Hassan Reddick still not sorted out, great. I hope it stays like that. But Hassan Reddick's not so the pass rush might not be his best, but I think this is a really true test for Brock Purdy. And I don't think he's going to have the best game. I still think the Niners are going to win. I think CMC has a huge game. But I think that Jets defense will take care of Brock Purdy. So those are my two situms for quarterbacks.
I think it's fair enough, man. I mean, the Jets defense is top notch and definitely on the money with Tua. I agree with you on that. What about the running backs?
Yeah, running backs, one from the same team, and then I have one on that's going to be playing, I believe, in Sunday Night Football. My first one's James Cook against the Cardinals. I think you see when the Bills fired their offensive coordinator last year, they went to a primarily run-based offense, and James Cook became like an instant start in a lot of leagues. And I think they're going to build up I think they're going to blow out Arizona, to be honest with you. So I think James Cook's going to get a lot of garbage time points. I think he gets a touchdown as well. So I think that's a pretty easy stardom. And my second one is David Montgomery. There's Jahmyr Gibbs is pretty beat up right now. He's got a hamstring issue, which I think they're not being too transparent about that. I think he's practicing limited, but I think Montgomery's going to out carry him week one. And I think that's an easy start him, and he's also on my team, so I hope he does. So I'm looking forward to his game, and I think that's gonna be a fun matchup, Rams and Lions on Sunday Night Football. I think that's a really fun matchup.
Dan Campbell loves David Montgomery. He likes those type of running backs too.
Yep. And then going on to my situms, I think these ones are pretty straightforward. I got for my first one, I got Jerome Ford against Dallas. I don't like that. I don't like that start at all. Jerome Ford still might be carrying the workload while Chubb is out. He's on the PUP list, but I don't like Jerome Ford against Dallas. I think Dallas's defense is still going to be as intimidating as it was in the first half of the season. And I think that will be honestly a pretty good game, but I'm not going to have Jerome Ford as a stardom unless I really absolutely have to. Especially on the goal line situations, I think Dallas will pretty much take away any opportunity right there for him. So I think that one's pretty easy. And my second one is my number one sit-em, like in a long time, James Conner. I don't think Arizona is going to be running the ball too much. I think they're going to be passing a lot. And you know what? I actually hope I'm wrong. I hope Arizona beats Buffalo, but I don't see it at all. But if Buffalo is going to blow out Arizona like I think they're gonna, James Conner is going to be non-existent on Sunday. So I think that's pretty easy one.
They're going to be passing that ball, trying to get back in the game, man.
Absolutely.
That's it. Wide receivers, what you got?
Yeah, wide receivers is I'm going with the guy that someone in our league trashed me for drafting too early. But, he's been all the talk of Rams training camp, and that is Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp is going to have a huge bounce back season. A lot of people have been calling me crazy, but he's been all the talk at Rams training camp. He's back to his former self. He's been the primary focus. Puka Nacua is not even 100%. Give me Cooper Kupp easily. If he's even back to a slither of his former self, I think he'll be a top 10 fantasy receiver. And I took him pretty early because that's how much faith I got for him. I think he's going to be my slept on guy because people look at Puka Nacua and see what he did last year. He's banged up. Give me Cooper Kupp. So I'm really excited for that start. And then second guy, I'm going with my guy, Jalen Waddle. I think he actually outperforms Tyreek Hill this week. I think he's going to be the one that gets the most targets in the offense this week. I think Jacksonville will do a good job of trying to force Tua to go to other options. But I think Jalen Waddle gets the primary focus. And I need, when was the last time we saw a goddamn Waddle celebration? Like, come on. I need that week one. I need it like air. So give me Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle for my first two starts. And then going to the sit-ems, I think you're crazy if you even consider starting this receiver. And I don't even know for sure if they're going to even let him play because he just finished his contract situation. But Brandon Ayuk, he's projected to play, but I think you would be an idiot to start him week one against the New York Jets when he hasn't even practiced. I love that the 49ers players took their sweet ass time with their contract situations. You saw what happened with Nick Bosa last year. He went off to a very slow start, and I fucking hate the Niners. So I really, but I still think I want them to beat the Jets. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think Ayuk. I think you got to stay away from Ayuk at all costs this week. So that's my one sit-em. And then my second one is going to be Zay Flowers. I think with Mark Andrews coming back, I think Lamar is going to rely on him most of the time, especially in red zone opportunities. And we all know, Lamar Jackson, for as good as he is, especially in fantasy, wide receiver ones just don't have the best seasons with him throwing the ball. And Mark Andrews is his guy. So I think that one's a pretty easy sit-em. I'll see what Zay Flowers does after this week. Not too high on him this year, but if they start giving him the ball more in this opening game, and then I'll definitely change my mind on that one for sure.
And they got Derrick Henry too.
Yep. And then for moving on to the tight end category, we're moving along here pretty quickly. And I think this one you'll totally agree with me on because we know our Dolphins with tight ends. And I think stardom is going to be Evan Ingram. I think he scores the lone touchdown for Jacksonville for sure. But I think it's going to get to a point where, there's going to be multiple drives constructed by Jacksonville where they're just going to be throwing nonstop and they're just going to be hitting him. So, and especially if you're in a PPR league, start him right away. I think he'll get a lot of the share right there, especially if, Ramsey's going to be on Kirk and then Fuller on Gabe Davis. I don't really trust Kohu or somebody else or like Brooks. Probably Brooks would be your best bet to go and cover Ingram, but yikes. I think Ingram has a pretty good game for tight ends. And then Dalton Kincaid is my second star. I'm really high on Kincaid. I hate that he's a Bill, but I think next to him and Khalil Shakir. By the way, if you drafted Khalil Shakir, you are a genius. I drafted him in each of my leagues. He became the vocal point of that Buffalo offense, and now with Diggs gone, I think he's a sleeper. I'm getting him past the 6th or 7th round each time. So if you drafted Khalil Shakir, good job. So I think Shakir and Kincaid are going to be the two Bills players you're going to want to draft. But starting the tight end spot, Kincaid, definitely top 2 starter for sure. And then my two sit-ems is the biggest bust in one of the biggest busts in NFL history that we refuse to just talk about, and that's Kyle Pitts. I still don't see Kyle Pitts just magically becoming this top 5 tight end that we think he's going to be, especially even with Kirk Cousins, who's coming back from an Achilles injury. And they even drafted Michael Penix, right? Yeah, they drafted Michael Penix for no fucking reason. So, like, we'll see if Kyle Pitts is going to be relevant. But until then, he's still one of the biggest busts in NFL history to me. And then Njoku as well. I don't like I do think, Njoku is questionable right now, especially going against what is it? It's going against Dallas. I think Amari Cooper would get more of the shares there, but I do not. But any really receiver or tight end going against Dallas, I tend to stay away from each week. But pretty straightforward week 1. I'm expecting. I hope to see some fireworks that were as big as last year's week 1. But that's my stardom synonyms for the week. And I saw that comment in here that my team kind of sucks in the league that I'm in with you. I highly disagree. I got so much depth, and I think Jalen Wright is a steal as well. So, and the fact that you let me get Pittman, AJ Brown, and Cooper Kupp, okay.
Cooper Kupp, you're riding or dying.
We'll have a Zoom when I'm hanging my next banner, okay? We'll have a little celebration.
There, you got it. Love it, man. Good stuff. What are your thoughts on Keon Coleman?
Keon Coleman, yeah. See, I just wasn't really impressed with what we were seeing in training camp and preseason. But I mean, I just don't know much about the guy. You know, I kind of zoned out of the draft when Miami took a pass rusher, which I'm not too upset about anymore. But after the draft, I kind of just zoned out, and I'm not the best college scout when it comes to the draft work, but I really just don't know too much about him. But I think any receiver that has Josh Allen as their quarterback is going to definitely have its chances to excel. I think I do think you should draft him, because I think also Buffalo's defense has definitely regressed. And if they're going to be throwing a lot and down a lot of games, and you know what Josh Allen can do with the football, I think definitely Kincaid and Shakir are your first 2 picks, but I think Coleman could be a sleeper. But to be honest, I don't know too much about him. So, but I don't think you should have not passed up on him, because like I said, you know what Josh Allen does with the football. And if they're going to be having more opportunities for him to pass the ball, then that's more chances for you, especially in PPR leagues.
Fair enough. Good stuff, Jacoby. By the way, just to tell you, I was very high on Cooper Kupp this year. You exactly ruined my plan from where I was drafting. And every single mock draft, when I was 3rd and 4th, I was going to go down that list where Cooper Kupp was, because there was a big chunk, and I was going Cooper Kupp and then Jalen Waddle with my next pick, because I knew people were just not going to go down there, and you ruined it. So
no, if it makes you feel any better, I was dead set on Waddle, and then you took him right before me. So.
So we both sniped each other, but I wanted both of those guys on my team as my 2 wide receivers, and I'm glad that they're both on your love list this week, man.
Hey, the power rankings in our league has me projected last, just like last year. So, I mean, it's good. It's good. I'm thrilled, man.
Doubt me all you want.
and I got Stafford. I can always double him up with Kupp. So, I mean, I got Stafford in the last round, which was kind of crazy for me.
And Kupp's targets, his targets went up crazy throughout the last couple games of the season.
Exactly.
Too.
So, I mean, I can always throw Stafford in a double end in the championship. So we'll see.
Good stuff, Jacoby. As always, man. There you have it. The Stardom Sit-em segment from yours truly, the fantasy football champ, Jacoby. We will keep you guys updated with how our league is going. That way we can see how Jacoby is trending and if he's going for that repeat, man. Guys, appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Make sure you keep it locked in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We will be back every single Tuesday right here, same time, same channel. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow Jacoby on Twitter. He's a great follow. My guy, as always. Good luck to the Dolphins. Hopefully they start 1-0. Like me and Jacoby said, we got Buffalo next Thursday. This is a huge game. Take care of business. Get yourself.
And I'm going to the Seattle game week 3, so I don't need them 0-2 in Seattle. So
that is true. Don't do that to my boy.
Yeah. I spent a fortune on this trip, man.
Man, it's gonna be a hell of an experience with that 12th man, though, bro.
Yeah, it is.
Jacoby, I appreciate you as always, my man.
For sure, man. I'm excited. Next week, hopefully, we're recapping a Dolphins win, getting ready for Buffalo. So that's the plan.
Yes, sir. Go Fins, everybody. Be safe. Enjoy week 1, and we will catch you guys right here next week on our channel. Peace.